everyone, I'm Tally, this is Farrell, and we are Bored of It. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be having a debate, and that debate is, which is better, Agricola or Grand Austria Hotel?
And this is because these are both older games that we've only discovered or started playing in the last month or two.
Yeah.
And we're both incredibly enamored with them. Me more with Agricola, Tally more with Grand Austria Hotel. So because there is a reasonable amount of similarities between them, we thought it'd be a good debate and we would argue about which is better, and then you can vote down in the comments below.
Oh, I didn't know that was a part of it.
And say who is correct, because someone is correct.
It's me.
No, Agricola's way better. So,
spoiler alert to this debate.
Well, we both know which side we're on. But yeah, we're just thinking, they're both a bit older games. They both kind of feel older in a lot of ways. And they both have some similarities where with Agricola, it's a very straightforward worker placement game that is kind of altered each time you play by different cards. So you have worker cards and you have improvement cards, and these will really shake up how each game plays and how the game feels and what you do. Whereas while Grand Austria Hotel isn't a worker placement game, you are kind of taking dice. And it's similar in a way where you're taking dice to do specific actions, which is kind of the inverse of putting a worker on a space. So it feels similar in some ways. And importantly, there are cards as well that will really alter how you play the game. So they do have some very similar vibes. They're actually, I think, both kind of very close together on the Board Game Geek Top 100. So we'll just get into it and debate. So why don't you start by just saying a little bit about what Grand Austria Hotel is and the theme?
Yes, so you are, I guess, running a hotel and you have some very prestigious guests in your hotel cafe. And you have some staff members, which are the cards that you were referring to, which are going to kind of give you little bonuses and help you along the way. But you're basically turn to turn. If you have space, which you have 3 spaces for guests in your cafe, take a guest, which when you complete their order by sending them, was it strudel, cake, wine, coffee, you will kind of complete their order. They come out of your cafe and give you a little bonus, and then they will go to one of your very lovely rooms in your hotel, and then that room is then occupied. So it's all about, going up, there's like an emperor track, getting little bonuses along the way. Obviously, the more hotel rooms that you occupy, the better that's going to be for scoring, but you're going to be kind of scoring along the way. The guests whose orders you fill are going to give you points as well. And so, yeah, that's basically the gist of it. And shall I say why I really like it?
Now let's go into, so I'll just explain a little bit about Agricola and the theme. So in Agricola, as I said, it's a worker placement game, pretty straightforward. And what you're doing is you're a 17th century sustenance farmer. So you start with 2 workers and kind of an empty player board, and the goal of the game is to build up. And basically everything you could do gets you points, and if you haven't done it, it usually will cost you a point. So you can build pastures and keep animals in them. There's different types of animals, so you want at least one of every type of animal, ideally more, because generally the more you have of something, the more you score. You can plow fields and plant grains and vegetables. Again, the more you have, the more points you get, and if you don't have them, you get negative. You can upgrade your house to make it more valuable. You can build more rooms, which allow you to get more people and more workers. And yeah, one of the core things is that you have these improvements and you have occupations. And both of these give you ways to manipulate the game. Like every time you go to this space, get this. Or, as a one-time thing, get this stuff. And there's a lot of these different types of cards, and they're kind of, randomly dealt out, and you can draft if you want that variant. But they really do shake up how you play, because you have to carve out a niche for yourself with these cards. Because if you don't lean into them, then you're playing a very tough game by just kind of taking the worker placement spaces straight.
Yeah.
So why don't you start with what you like about Grand Austria Hotel?
Yeah, okay. I guess it's important to preface that we both really like both games.
Yes.
Like I really do like Agricola, but I just have a preference for Grand Austria Hotel. So I think for me, I just think the theme is more fun than 17th century.
I disagree.
I know that you love 17th century sustenance farming. It's all I've heard about since we started playing it.
Hotelier, boring thing.
No, I really like it. Maybe because it's reminiscent of Grand Budapest Hotel.
That's
which
the number
is
one thing. Yeah.
One of my favourite films. Although, yeah, I think people have recommended it based on that, but it's not really anything to do with it. It's just, I guess, has some kind of link. But yeah, I think for me, I prefer it because it's more open. I think there's more options within the game, personally. There's so many guest cards. Each one's giving like some different bonuses or different combinations of bonuses every time.
So define what you mean by open.
I felt like when I have played Agricola, I maybe this is just me and maybe it's why I don't win, but I found myself going through the same motions a little bit.
This is interesting because this is literally the exact reverse of how I feel.
Okay.
Where I think Agricola is more different and interesting on a given play than Grand Austria Hotel is, because I feel like Grand Austria Hotel is always like, I mean, the main point of interest is the staff cards, which really shake up what you can do and bonuses you get. So I think those are great, but generally playing, it's like you need to be going up the Emperor track because otherwise you get negative penalties. You need to go towards the goals, of which there isn't that many. You need to fill the rooms, and it kind of goes into a rhythm that's similar each time.
But how you do that, I think, is quite different. So the Emperor track, you could do that by filling up and occupying all of the yellow rooms and give yourself like a boost and move forward on the Emperor track.
Yeah.
Because basically, if you're not familiar, it's 3 times in the game, kind of every other round when it gets to the end of the game, right?
Yeah, it's like 3rd, 5th, 7th, and there's 7 rounds.
The Emperor will come and evaluate, I guess, and if you haven't made it far enough up the track, then you'll get bumped back down and you won't get the Emperor bonus, and you might even get something negative happen to you. But there's just various ways for me that you can go up that track. So yeah, by filling up the yellow rooms and occupying them, you could go down the route of using a staff member who maybe every time you do action A will give you, an option to go up the track. You could use the guest cards as well. So for me, I think it just gives a bit more options. Yeah, you're doing the same thing every time, but how you do it, I think, is quite different. Whereas for me in Agricola, I don't find the occupation cards like that different from each other. I think they're all, I don't know, doing, of course the way what's written on them is different, but I think it's just because you're trying to fill up the farm all of the time. And there's only like limited ways to do that. It's like build a pasture, build fields. I think for me, it's just because it's quite tight. So I feel like I go through the same motions because I don't have the breathing room to expand out and maybe like try different things. This is why we're having this debate. You're not right. I can have my opinion now. You're looking at me.
Didn't say anything.
I just think with Grand Austria Hotel, you obviously score much bigger. You're like always getting points as well. Yeah. Oh my God, you're so annoying. You got so salty the other day when I was winning this, and you said that you never wanted to play it again.
That's true.
Like, don't even test me.
That's true. But you didn't love me.
Yeah, that's a fluke. You said you got lucky. Put me off now. Oh, I'm enraged thinking about the game that we played earlier today. It was very annoying. And maybe I was going to change my mind and this video wouldn't happen. Like, I hate this game. It's so annoying.
Well,
but yeah, I just find it more satisfying to kind of be getting points as you go along. Whereas with Agricola, you just score up at the end. And it's obviously like much lower scoring, and like the difference between the points, I think, is like less game to game, because some things might only give you like 1 or 2 points. At the end of the game that we played today, I was weighing up, do I do this or this? And it's like, okay, that's going to get me 1 point, that's going to get me 2 points. It's just like smaller to me, which is why I like to yeah, I just think Grand Austria Hotel is my preference because it's just more open and flowing, in my opinion.
One thing, so yeah, I guess if you're talking about, I really like Agricola because I really like, I mean, we both do like mean, tight games. And Agricola is a bit mean, it's very tight. And I really like that element of it where even though it's worker placement, you know, you kind of, at minimum, you have the battle for space. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very interesting and very tight. Where are they going to go? What are they doing? Yeah. Can they do this space? Can I leave it till later? And I think it's one of the best examples of worker placement. What I also find really interesting, really like about Agricola is it does so much for like an older game, relatively, that you don't really see that much. Like, I'm surprised it's not things aren't aping it more. Like having the spaces where the resources stack up until you take them. Having new spaces revealed every single round and expanding the options available. I think those are really interesting things you don't often see, and they make it actually feel quite novel coming to it now than everything else that's doing the same thing over and over. Yeah. One thing, okay, what about this? As a question as which is better? Don't you find that Agricola is much smoother and much better at providing you information than Grand Austria Hotel is? Like, we've played Grand Austria Hotel 7 times, and the iconography is such that we often still have to check in the rule book what the staff cards do, what the guest cards do, because there's such a variety. But the symbology is not quite there. Whereas in Agricola, because it's like text and because symbology is much better, we don't have to reference the rules almost ever. Then you think that's superior in Agricola? No.
I like in Grand Austria Hotel, it doesn't really bother me to have to check the rules. I prefer that there's more options, right? Again, because there's like so much variety, that's why we haven't maybe got to grips with it yet. And for me, that's why I like it, because I just think there's like more. It's like in Agricola, the cards might be get 1 wood, get 1 clay. It's the same.
I think you're severely underselling what the cards do.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you realize. I think the cards are incredibly interesting.
Okay, that's really super. Yeah, no, I disagree.
But I think
I'm not saying they're not interesting, but I just think they're all much of a muchness in a way.
I think one thing I prefer, and this is like a small thing, because it's not really happened except maybe once in Grand Austria Hotel, but what I like in Agricola is that all the cards are generally focused on carving out your niche and finding a way to game the system and kind of hammer that in. Whereas in Grand Austria Hotel, you can get end-game scoring cards and cards that help you in the game. And I mean, if you do the drafting variant, then it's probably like less bad. But in our first couple of games, we were just dealing them out. And one of the issues could be, because it's random, you can get a hand of cards that's almost entirely end-game scoring cards. Yeah. And then you're at a disadvantage because you need those non-endgame scoring cards to carve out a little gap in a similar way to Agricola.
Yeah. I just find, like the game we played today, for instance, I didn't have anything to do in the end because I'd filled up the farm, the pastures were full of animals, and then I had nothing else that I could do that was meaningful. Like I said, I could get maybe 1 more point by doing a major improvement or something. I'm like, okay, I don't know. It's like just less interesting to be weighing up a decision. Do I get 1 point or 2 points or like?
But isn't that a bit the same? It can be in the final of Grand Austria Hotel, where if you're not going to take, because any guests that you haven't put in your rooms at the end of the game are negative. So, and a lot of the drive is kind of getting the resources to feed and water the guests before putting them in their rooms. So it can be, you know, in the last round where if you're not going to take someone because you know you can't fill them, then you're just like, okay, well, like you're just kind of similar.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I think sometimes it can and sometimes it can't in both games.
I think it's just the consistent progression. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but because you're always getting these little bonuses in Grand Austria Hotel, whereas Agricola just is more tight, and it all comes down to like the final scoring, which usually I like, to be fair. Usually we like games where you don't know how the other person's doing, and then you score up at the end and it's a bit more of a surprise. But I think you can have more epic turns, maybe. And obviously you don't get that in Agricola because it is all about like building everything up and then you score it at the end.
No, I do agree that if you like comboing, Grand Austria Hotel is much better. You know, you can have 3 guests, which is the maximum you can have, and maybe like 2 runs when you start your turn. And then you're like, okay, well, I complete this guest, flip him, get some points. He lets me build a room for free. So now I have a room. So now I can put this like red person in that red room I just built. And then that gives me some money. So now I can take this action. And you do have these really interesting turns where you kind of explode out and do, from a basic turn is picking a single die and just doing the action, which might be like get some food, right? Into like a really big turn where you're doing a lot. So that's quite interesting.
Exactly.
Do you think that with Grand Austria Hotel, how do you feel about the turn order thing? Because I think that's one of the negatives for me, that Agricola is back and forth. You take your turn, you move on. Whereas Grand Austria Hotel has in a 2-player game, the first player goes, then the second player goes twice, then the first player goes again. Yeah. And what it means in principle is, because sometimes you do have to think quite a bit about what you can do and how you can kind of make those combos we said, it can be that the first player goes and then the second player is just like there for about 5 to 7 minutes, like doing both of their turns back to back. And then you come back to yours, and that's a bit... And this is why actually, so it's not the biggest problem, but I think in a 4-player game, the first player actually goes first and last. So that's one of the things why people say it's one of the games that's best at 2 players. Because if you're playing with 4, your downtime can be enormous if you're like first.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I've never even thought about that. I think it's quite interesting. I think it's more interesting than anything as the first player to think about the optimal order to do things, knowing that the other player is going to get 2 turns. And then equally, the player who goes second and then third back to back, you obviously don't get to go first, but then you get that obviously bonus of doing things back to back, and then you get more space again to start comboing different things. Okay, I'll do this in my second turn because that means I can do that in the third turn. I think particularly annoyed me today with Agricola, you have to waste a worker to get the first player marker because it doesn't go back and forth.
Well, you also get to put an occupation down.
Yeah, but I don't think that's... If you've only got 2 workers every round for probably the first half of the game, I don't think that's worth it. And I wanted to go first a lot, but I just didn't have the room to go to that space. Yeah, and then you just went first the entire game. So, I don't know, it's a bit annoying. I much prefer the mechanism Grand Austria Hotel where it's like back and forth, so you get a chance to go like equally.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree, but at the same time, I think you do get to put down an occupation, which is one of these cards. So if you have like a good one to put down, it's kind of like a bonus to get the first player marker.
Yeah, but then someone could just take it back the next turn, and then...
Well, next round at least.
Yeah, whereas obviously it's just a consistent way of doing it in Grand Austria Hotel, which is... Yeah, I just prefer that.
I think, to be fair, I think it's a weird one with Grand Austria Hotel because I actually think I prefer the second and third turns being together, because you know that the other player can't interfere, so you can really look at what's there and be like, I can do this and do that, like you said. Whereas I think it's actually more annoying to be first, because it's very rare that being like going first matters so much, because you know a place might have 2 or 3 dice and you can always pay to kind of boost the number, and it only really matters, say, if there's like 1 die there. Yeah. So it doesn't matter, but then you have to like wait, and I find that more annoying actually. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, no, I see your point with the back and forth of Agricola and always being first. But I think, I just really like how the action spaces expand over time and you have like more options, and that bite point of you have the spaces that accumulate resources, and it's one of these things where it's like, I don't want to go there now because there's only 2 clay. I can't do anything with 2 clay. But next turn it has 3 clay. Now you can do something with that. And then it's like, oh, should I go there now? Should I wait? And then if like tally goes, it's like, oh no, well, I'm not doing clay now. I have to figure out something else.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting as back and forth.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal actually. Because it is so tight.
Okay, so why don't we wrap up by saying something that we like about the other game?
Okay.
Or I really appreciate.
I like the little pigs.
I meant about gameplay specifically.
I like. No, like you said before, we appreciate mean tight games, and obviously it is interesting to try and figure out and pivot all the time what you're having to do, because you are so dependent on the worker placement spaces and where the other person goes. So obviously that is an interesting challenge where you can have a plan in your mind, but then you just go take the space and you've got to pivot. So I think it's an interesting challenge because it is so tight.
For me, with Grand Austria Hotel, the main thing I really like is this combination of the staff cards and the guest cards, because the staff cards kind of give you maybe like bonus actions or improve actions or things like that, and the guest cards give you little bonuses when you complete them usually, or I think almost always, but the power of the bonus is kind of if they also give you victory points related to that. And I just really enjoy the combination of both those and getting your staff in play and then being like, okay, I'm really good at getting food now, so let's look out for guests that get food, and then you're like, okay, I can do this guest, and then they give me this good bonus, and linking these bonuses and like extra actions together, and I think that's really cool. But as we say, we both enjoy
very much
both games a lot. I think they're terrific. Just Agricola's better.
No, Grand Austria Hotel's better. I think I could win this one in the comments. Let us know.
Agricola's OG, man.
So is Grand Austria Hotel, famously.
I think it's actually not that old.
OG doesn't mean old.
Well, it can't be OG if it's only
game. Is that what it means? Yes, it's the OG. Yes.
No, but it can't be OG if it's only like 3 years old, 5 years old, I think.
I disagree, but there we have it. We can agree to disagree.
Unfortunately. But the good thing is that we enjoy playing both of them.
Yes.
So yeah, just do a little summary. So Agricola, it's, if you like worker placement, I think quite clearly it's one of the best. That's why it has the longevity and popularity. I think it's brilliant with some of the stuff it does, and I'm surprised that more games now don't ape what it does. You know, the expanding spaces, the brutality of the worker placement, the fact that you kind of build up something and you grow from nothing into like a really populated little area, and you can look back and be proud of all that you've done. Yeah, I just think it's really great, and it's one of these games that it's like simplistic to play, but very mean, but also a lot of weighty decisions.
Grand Austria Hotel has a far superior theme that's more fun than sustenance farming.
Sustenance farming is the ultimate theme.
It is a game that maybe you like if you kind of like to get that buzz. It reminds me a little bit similar, not as brutal, but like Praga or something like that, where you're always getting little bonuses, you're always moving up tracks. I mean, your classic Euro things, really. But like you said, I think where it shines is really the comboing of your staff cards and the bonuses that you get from your guests to really move your little like kind of engine forward in a way. And yeah, it just, for me, very satisfying to work out how to best combo it and to be always getting these little bonuses. And I do think the Emperor track, even though it's sometimes a bit annoying, you always have to consider it, It is quite interesting.
It's spicy.
It's more spicy. There's a little bit of spice thrown in because you could, get a negative if you don't go up it. So you always got to consider, okay, I just want to serve my guests, get the points out from them, but I do need to be going up on the Emperor track. And I think it's quite nice. Maybe a little bit like the mean Sandra mechanism in Kanban EV, which we really love. I think it would be a bit too nicey nice without it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's also quite fun. So vote for Grand Austria Hotel.
Well, in Agricola.
No. You finished.
No,
you had your time.
I'm just saying, it's a game where you can be excited about getting an asparagus fork.
You were excited.
I was so excited about my asparagus fork.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, but we've got strudel. Come on.
Yeah, strudel. So that was the end of our debate, review, argument, and bickering. So we're just preparing for marriage, basically. So that was our video. Please obviously comment down below which is a better game. Please let us know what your favorite expansion is for either game. Well, I think there's only one, but if you recommend it, I guess. Then we'd really appreciate it if you're not already, if you could subscribe. It really helps us grow the channel and it means a lot to us. And finally, we're just happy to answer any questions you might have about the games.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time, I think, for a normal review.
Yes.
So thanks a lot for watching. See you.
Bye.